Hi, everyone, and thank you for watching my show. I'm here with a very special guest, Joel Bergman, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of really interesting topics right now. We're going to be talking about a topic that is very dear to my heart, Marxism. It is a type of discussion that I think we should be having more of. I think it asks questions such as, like, oh, if we're creating so much food in the world, why do we have hungry people? If we have so many empty homes in the world, why do we have homeless people? And the most important thing about Marxism is to have a space where we can have these discussions. And this is where I think Joel comes in. Joel, I was wondering if you could talk to us about the organization you're part of called Fight Back.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sam. Well, Fight Back is a Canadian Marxist organization. We also exist in Quebec as well, called La Riposte Socialiste in French. Yeah, and we've massively grown. I joke that Marxism is the only expanding market these days because so many people are seeing the failure of the capitalist system right before our eyes in many ways, with the dealing with the COVID pandemic, with climate change, with growing inequality, poverty, you name it. Capitalism is undermining our ability and is the direct culprit of many of these problems. Fight Back is a Marxist organization. We have student clubs across the country. We're active in the labor movement, and we seek to promote a socialist solution to these problems. We believe that there is a way to. We don't have to have a tiny minority of individuals owning the economy and making all the major decisions. We believe that we working class people can actually and will be much better suited to make those sorts of decisions to tackle these major problems we face in the world.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's the long and short of the fight. What Fight Back does.
Cool. Yeah, and one of the big parts of that is to educate people about it, and that's why you have the Marxist Winter School that is coming up. You said that it's the largest Marxist event in North America, so that's pretty amazing. I was wondering if you could talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the largest in North America, but
Oh,
definitely in Canada.
okay.
Uh, yeah, because I do think there's some bigger things in the U.S. But yeah, really, I've been helping to organize this for like 11 years or something. The first one, it was like a very small, it was like a 20 people or something like that. It was a small group of people, but we believe that the important thing of the ideas that we're going to capture the imagination of people, that we stuck to our guns, and eventually it just kept growing, and in the past few years, it's ballooned in size. Last year we had 250 people for the weekend in Montreal. We'd physically meet, and this year we're doing it virtually. So it's expanded massively. I think there's over 750 people registered now, something
Wow.
like that. With less than a week to go, so I don't know. We'll see. We're trying to get up to 1,000 mark. I don't know. With a final push, we might be able to get there. Um, yeah, so that's a little bit about the Marxist Winter School. We seek to teach people about some of the fundamentals of Marxism, about class struggle, about revolutions in the past, so we can learn the lessons for the coming movements, because we ultimately believe that the economic crisis and the degeneration of the capitalist system itself is causing political and social turmoil. We already see it. And so we're going to be faced with mass movements, and yes, even in Canada, revolution. And we
Hmm.
need to learn the lessons of past movements, so we don't make the same mistakes, so that actually we can win against against the capitalists and build a new society, a socialist society. So
Hmm.
that's what the Montreal Marxist Winter School is all about, happening next weekend.
That's cool.
There's going to be Yeah, there's going to be 10 presentations. We expanded it to 3 days. It's bilingual, so it'll be in French and English. We try to break through that national linguistic divide that exists so often in Canada and in the movement. To be honest, there's like French spaces and English spaces,
Hmm.
where we try to break that with this event. And I think we've quite successfully done that. Anyway, so that's the long and short about what the Marxist Winter School is all about.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can see that there's a lot of hype. You said around 750 people are signed up. I think like maybe like 3 or 4 days ago, that number was like 600. So I definitely see that there's a lot of like hype coming in for this. I looked at some of the classes that you'll be teaching. One of them that's really interesting to me, and I think people will be really interested about, is Louis Riel and the rebellion of the Métis. I was wondering if you could talk about that just a bit.
Yeah, so this is one of those events that we all know of usually. You learn about it in history class, but they don't teach you much about it. Um, and so what we're trying to do is provide a Marxist analysis of this question. It's intimately related to the birth of Canada as a nation, which was not a peaceful, nice thing that happened. It kind of began in 1837-38 with the crushing of rebellions in the East, the Patriots and the Upper and Lower Canada rebellions, and then began with that, and then it was finalized with the crushing of the Métis in the West. That was that and it was a very bloody venture. It was a brutal what I believe, a counter revolution led by John A. Macdonald, the prime minister at the time. And so a lot of you don't really learn a lot about that, right? You learn that they were
Mm.
put down, and maybe they were right about a few things. But there's also an interesting thing from a Marxist point of view, is that there was to analyze the economic relations at the time that led to sort of a class struggle within the Métis movement as well, which was actually fundamental. So we're going to bring forward this sort of analysis, which I think that's going to be the first session on the Saturday morning. I think it should go pretty well. We're developing an article on the matter as well. So that's a bit about that.
Yeah, cool. Like, what really interested me about it is because, I was in high school like 8 years ago, and the only thing I know about Louis Riel is that he was rebellious and then he got executed or something like that. So, like, I find it really interesting that there's more to the story that we can actually learn, and yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, what a
Uh,
lot of people don't know, just if I could butt in quickly, is
yeah.
he was killed because they had put someone to death actually. But a lot of what you don't hear about that story is Thomas Scott, the guy they put to the firing squad. There was a trial. He had killed someone. He had killed a Métis person
Hmm.
in Red River where this happened, and there was a trial, and he was found guilty, and he was sentenced to death, which was actually common for the time. And so what a lot of people say about Louis Riel was, oh, he was horrible, he killed this guy, la la la, and so it had nothing to do with that. It was actually setting an example to oppressed people. You don't rise up,
Hmm.
we'll kill your leaders, basically.
Yeah.
uh, which they did to the Patriots in the East as well. So
Hmm.
it more had to do with that than any of this. Oh, he was rebellious. He actually wasn't that rebellious. They gave up actually without a fight. He fled to America in the first one. So it's not, he wasn't like super violent or anything. I think that's actually not
Hmm.
true equally. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, that's why like I'm excited to learn. And also for the people watching right now, if you have any questions, feel free to write comments. If I see any good comments, I'm going to be bringing them up. And yeah, just feel free to participate in the discussion. Another one that I'm really curious about is When the Slaves Won, which is about the Haitian Revolution. I'm really excited to learn about, people who are enslaved, like winning the battle and, getting through this, system that is being very unkind to them. Like, how do they get through that? Like, what are you guys going to be talking about during that class?
Generally, the Haitian Revolution was one of the most incredible events that isn't talked about very often. We talk about the American Revolution, the French Revolution. Well, the Haitian Revolution was directly related to these events, actually. Why? Because Haiti was the richest colony in the world at the time. I believe it was sugar and coffee and things like this for the French mercantile bourgeois that developed. And uh, it was kind of like slavery in America, the question of slavery in America during the first revolution. It's like all men are created equal. Oh, wait a minute. That's not, we don't believe that's true for economic reasons. So there was a section of the French Revolution that they were preaching this rights of man, we're all equal stuff, and they were keeping the slavery in their main colonies for economic reasons. So a lot of the slaves, especially the ones that had become educated, they understood this, and they said, "No, we deserve liberation as well." And the Haitian Revolution is a very contradictory process with a lot of ups and downs, different leaders. Many people know Toussaint Louverture. And it's a very inspiring event because they fought to the finish. They expelled the colonizers and they won the battle at the end. And it's quite an inspiring event for revolutionaries and Marxists to study today. Yeah, so that's generally what we're going to talk about there. I don't want to go into too many details. You got to sign up for the school.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And I'll put a sign up link in the comments after this video, for
Excellent.
everyone that's curious. I have a question from live discussion from Panos. He's wondering, are you going to be analyzing the labor movement taking place in the U.S. around the 1900s?
Um, I don't believe so. We don't have a session on that. You can go to marxist.ca/school, and you can see there's 10 sessions laid out. The labor movement in the 1900s, though. I suppose probably a bit because it is tangentially related to some of the topics. Like we have one presentation on the question of reformism, why reformism can't solve the crisis that we're in. We have one on a need for a socialist planned economy. There'll probably be some talk of the labor movement in America. Um, yeah, there's the American Civil War, but that would be prior to that. We have a session on that as well. No, we don't have a session like directly on the U.S. labor movement in the 1900s, though. But I imagine it will come up in discussion and somewhat in the presentations. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Panos, you can bring it up during one of the classes. Okay, awesome. And I guess we have time for one more. Yeah, there's another one that's really interesting to me. It's the need for a socialist planned economy. Uh, I would love to learn a bit more about what you plan on discussing in that class.
well, this is an absolute central question today because what has happened is we've seen a miraculous failure of the market to, in the past year. The complete collapse. And what has basically happened is the governments around the world that we're normally saying keep the government, keep the state out of the market, let the market laissez faire do its thing. They all of a sudden were like, no, 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 we must intervene. Hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars worldwide injected into the market, given to big companies. In Canada, the amount of dead money that major Canadian corporations are hoarding increased from 1 trillion to 1.58 trillion just in 2020. So all those emergency measures that they claimed were necessary to save the Canadian economy, the capitalists just pocketed it and they're sitting on it. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, but there's nothing else that could have been done." Well, guess what? There is something that can be done. There is a different way of organizing society. And this leads us, we say we need a socialist planned economy. We can plan production. It doesn't have to be this anarchy that we see in the market. Like even with vaccines, we're a bit like, well, who's making them? I don't know, some private company, and we don't have much control in terms of like the government doesn't have much control over it. We don't have much control. The workers don't have control, and lo and behold, we're sitting here with almost nobody vaccinated. Anyway, what a lot of people would probably respond, say, "Oh, but socialism doesn't work. You need the market because it's too complicated. There's millions of different types of commodities. You can't really plan this out. It's impossible." Right? Probably heard that argument before. That's a key argument against socialism. Well, guess what? Large parts of the economy are planned, like Walmart, actually, or Amazon. Internally, they're not competing. They've eliminated any competition. They control the entire chain of production, distribution, sale, and Walmart in particular. It's like a big. The Walmart GDP is bigger than most countries. It has millions of employees. It's a virtual economic dictatorship of the Walton family inside the company, but it is all planned. So I don't think, which is, yeah, it's quite incredible what they've done. So the best argument for socialist planning, actually, as Marx said, comes from within capitalism, that the capitalists themselves admit that centralized planning is more efficient and productive than a chaotic market, and they eliminate it. That's why most industries is one or two or maybe three big companies that dominate the industry and are all internally planned. So we just believe that working class people should just, we produce all that wealth. Why don't we own it and control it and run it? It can be done. It's already being done in a certain sense. So this session is mostly about what's possible and why it's possible to organize our society in a different, in a rational manner to tackle the vast problems that exist. It's not for lack of food or lack of money or or lack of resources that you have hunger and poverty or anything like this, or it's not because we don't have the proper technology that we can't solve climate change. That's not the reason why. We can. It just,
Mm-hmm.
capitalism is in the way. So that's why we need a socialist planned economy. So yeah, I look forward to that session. I will be attending that session.
Mm-hmm.
Should be good. Should be very good.
Yeah, honestly, like everything you brought up sounds really interesting. I invite everyone who's watching to sign up. Oh yeah, I have a question. How much does it cost?
Well, we never want the money to be a barrier. So we are asking for a small contribution because it is a big a big venture that we're doing here, and it actually costs us quite a bit of money to do, for the Zoom accounts and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we don't want it to be a barrier. So there's an option there that if you really can't pay anything, just send us an email and we'll provide you the link anyway. But yeah, we ask people to at least pay $10 if you can to help us out. But yeah, if you can't, at the end of the day, we'll never turn anyone away. We'll always let anyone in. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's generally how it is. We ask people to be generous as well. Some people are giving us $50, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that goes a long way to help us do more events like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. And yeah, beyond the Marxist Winter School, what else are you guys doing during the year?
Well, we have a series of events. We're planning to do big events on International Women's Day to provide a Marxist analysis of how we can fight against the oppression of women. Yeah, we have events all through the year. I don't have a lot of the details currently because we're focusing all of our force on this thing next weekend. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we will. We normally have a series of events on different topics. Usually theoretical things, historical things, or current events, like a Marxist analysis of current events as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but you can follow our website, marxist.ca, or our Facebook page, Fight Back, or Canada Marxists, to find out more information. We also have we have monthly publications, one in French, one in English. Fight Back magazine. I encourage everyone to get a subscription to that. You can find that on our website, marxist.ca. And we have one in French as well, La Riposte Socialiste, which is on marxist.qc.ca. If you want to get a subscription, that really goes a long way. We're trying to really counter the capitalist press. You have, especially, I find, especially in a place like Quebec, the press is owned mostly by one guy.
Mm-hmm.
They control the narrative, they control the messaging, and they whip up reactionary sentiments. We need to fight against that. Working class people must have their own analysis and fight against the press of the bosses, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, honestly, like I feel like every time we try to fight for like rights for like a certain group of people, there always ends up like all these like opinion articles about why we can't do it. And
Yeah.
that bothers me a lot. I find it weird how that keeps happening. And this is why I'm excited about your organization because I feel like it fights against that. And that's like really important because we need to stop fighting with each other and we need to start learning about how we can improve the communities that we're in. So yeah, everyone who's watching, I'm gonna be linking the Marxist page, as well as the Marxist Winter School if you're interested. As Joel said, it's free if you can't afford it. But also like contributions are appreciated, solidarity. And yeah, thank you so much, Joel, for coming.
Thank you
Uh,
very much.
and yeah, is there anything else you want to add before we end?
Not really. Register for the winter school. Come check us out. Subscribe to our paper, and keep tuning into Sam's show.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you so much, Joel, for coming, and we'll see you next week at the event.
Cool. Thank you very much.
All right, bye, Joel.
Bye.
And for everyone else who's watching, tune into the Samuel page. Make sure to like our page so that you can keep in touch with all the videos that we have. And yeah, we'll be seeing you throughout the week. Bye, everyone.